Chris, fantastic to have you here.
Thank you. Pleased to be here.
So you're about to ride out with basically, right?
Yeah, actually, I'm flying into San Antonio later today, and we're going to Eagle Pass, Texas. We were there last 2 weeks ago. I threw a rally in San Antonio, and instead of having a bunch of bikers there, we had about 150 or so Mexican Americans and Latinos for Trump from around the country. And they came in and talked about the importance of a wall. So you can imagine how polarizing it may have been for some of the left-leaning media to see a bunch of Mexican Americans chanting, "Build that wall and finish that wall." It was pretty epic, and we pulled it together in about 24 hours. Before that, we did some aerial recon over the Rio Grande, and we were able to show, just how vulnerable that border is. But, one of the more alarming things that I found was that, according to our guide, there are 14 banks in Eagle Pass, Texas. This is a town of about 20,000 legals. People there are legal. So the consensus is from the locals there that these banks are used to launder a lot of money coming in from Ohio, Pennsylvania, and the rest of the country as a result of the drugs. And another alarming thing, we went back a little further down south from Eagle Pass, and where the wall stopped, and we could see just how easy it would be to cross that border, knee to waist deep water there at the Rio Grande. And within a football field away, there are neighborhoods. And so as we were driving by, our guide would point at a couple of houses and say, "Those are safe houses." So as these illegals cross the border, they go into a safe house, and as a result of the protocols of our law enforcement, they have to get a search warrant before they can go in there. Now, what else was alarming is about 100, 200 yards away from that, there was a truck stop there, a 7-Eleven, a McDonald's, and apparently that's where a lot of them will meet. They'll get in trucks and go out.
Right.
And so, when I talked to the Border Patrol there, they're all, wanting at the top of their wish list was some more help. And as I walked around and I met these Mexican Americans there, the left-leaning media would have you think that they're all against the wall, but that couldn't be further from the truth. The ones that I met were all for the wall. They saw the value of coming through the proper channels, and they certainly don't like the drugs coming across. And when we think about it, if you look at the numbers from 9/11 to 2015, 81,125 U.S. citizens were killed by illegal immigrants. Now, that's enough people to almost fill up the Dallas Cowboys Stadium. Then if you look at the two of the last war incursions, Iraq and Iran, a little over 5,000 soldiers were killed in that. Okay, so when you think about 81,000,
massive numbers,
and then you think about the 5,000 of the war, it really puts things in perspective. And so it truly is an invasion. So that's not taking into account the people who are dying in these 5 major states that have the opioid abuse: Ohio, Pennsylvania, Florida, just to mention a few of them. And so these guys are dying there with this fentanyl, this heroin, the crystal meth. And so the numbers are actually much higher than that. And the numbers I quoted you are from 2015, so you can only imagine how many it really is.
So the border barrier, the border wall, has become the major issue for your organization, Bikers for Trump.
Well, our narrative switches as a result of giving the president public relations reinforcement. We exist for the sole purpose of seeing him elected in 2020. After the 2016 elections, we started concentrating on candidates that he got behind. And so we spent a lot of time with Kramer in North Dakota, a lot of time with Hawley in Missouri. We spent the most time probably with Ron DeSantis and Rick Scott in Florida. But we had our hands in even some of the more of a disappointing races, like in Ohio for Jim Renacci, who's a fine man and a great businessman and was endorsed by the president. But he was outspent 20-1 on that race. And then we were very disappointed in Pennsylvania with Lou Barletta not getting in there. But nevertheless, we did our part to see that these guys were elected. And the first special election after 16 was Karen Handel. And we were able to go in there and be the difference makers in that one. We brought about 3,800 bikers to the polls that otherwise probably wouldn't have voted because it was a special election and right after the presidential campaign. And so that was nice. We played a very big role with Debbie Lesko in the 8th District of Arizona. And we actually got a letter from her to the president, thanking us and saying that we had actually, been a difference maker there. So we've got chapters in every state, hundreds of thousands of members. We grew by 3,000 just last week. And so we're a political activist group, not to be confused with a motorcycle club. We are set up just like a campaign. We have state coordinators and directors. We don't have presidents and sergeant of arms and so forth.
Okay.
And so we got a good infrastructure. My main guy, Dale, that helps me run the country, is a former warden, real thick skin. He's hard to get under there. And, like in many cases, you're only as smart as the people you surround yourself by.
Right.
So since the early 2015, we've been able to get a really good team in place. And we've got a great relationship with the Oval Office. So they're
Are you mostly focused on mobilizing other bikers, or it seems like it's a broader group?
It is. You don't have to have a motorcycle to be in Bikers for Trump. Our leadership positions are bikers, but we want to influence this thing. Our goal is to raise the bar and move the needle. There are a lot of people that don't have motorcycles, but they trust the motorcycle community, the motorcycle enthusiasts. And for a lot of reasons. One of the reasons is because they raise more money collectively than any charity in the country. Just
Really?
this weekend, they're having toy runs in California for Christmas. They're every weekend in any given city, they're raising money for veterans for their house, or put a roof on their house, or a transmission in their car. So not only the Bikers for Trump, and you've probably heard of Rolling Thunder, but you've got Bikers Against Jihad, Bikers Against Child Abuse, Bikers Against Domestic Violence. And so a lot of people around the country have this image of the biker that Hollywood has painted, the sons of anarchy, and that really just couldn't be further from the truth. The backbone of the biker community is the veteran, closely followed by the blue collar. And then we've got the baby boomers, the guys that are retiring. They're not buying Corvettes and Mustangs anymore. They're buying Harley Davidsons, and they're buying Indians, and they're finding their way to some military or law enforcement support groups. And so it's just a really broad group, and we've really just started to tap into it. We figure there's 8 to 10 million bikers. You got the Bikers for Christ. There's millions of the Christian bikers. You got the 3% bikers. That's like the Tea Party of the biker community.
Oh, really?
The Constitution guys, and so it's really a dynamic.
It's an incredible
group.
story, actually. There's a story to be written about this, I think.
Yeah, we do our best, but I aggravate a lot of media because I feel like in order for me to do my job, I got to stay focused. And like I said, we're Johnny on the spot. When the president needs something, we are there. And, we don't slow down a lot. So if they catch up to us, we're more than happy to explain to them what we're doing. But, we're not bikers who think we know best. We're Bikers for Trump, so we got to be a very good steward of that name, of this movement. And, we don't push back against the president. There's been certain times where some of the bikers may like a different candidate than the president endorsed. And so we would never have anything really bad to say. We might just keep our mouths shut in certain times. But we got to let these guys. People often ask me, why are the bikers so behind Trump? Why are 99 out of 100 of them behind him? And it started very early. He's very outspoken. He speaks his mind. That was the first ingredient. And when he started talking about things like radical Islam that would sink someone else's campaign, started talking about putting America first and building the wall, he certainly had the attention of the biker community.
Things are resonating.
Yes. Putting America first, like I said, the backbone of the biker community is the veteran. When the bikers got out of the Vietnam and the Korean War, they came back to the States and they were treated pretty poorly. And as a result, they found camaraderie and brotherhood in some of these motorcycle clubs. And obviously we hear of some of them that went wayward, but most of them, they didn't. And they just liked to ride and liked the freedom of it. They rode motorcycles in action over in Vietnam and the Korean War. And when they got back, they'd buy the old military bikes. And now we've got the Harleys and the Indians, and a lot of guys will make them themselves.
This is an incredible story. I just learned a ton during this little chat. Thank you so much, Chris.
You're welcome.
Really appreciate it.